I just finished Matt Dinniman's Dungeon Crawler Carl, and honestly, my entire TBR just got wrecked. Like, I don't know how anyone can stop after book one. I just have too many questions. Like, does Carl ever get pants? Will Princess Donut get her own spinoff? What is on the next level? Now, before we get too far into the review, let's start off with some basics. This book falls under the genre of LitRPG. Now, I've never read a LitRPG book before, but as someone who grew up with Super Mario and Pokemon, reading this sort of felt like playing a video game. It was a different reading experience than what I'm used to, but I honestly felt like I caught on pretty fast with the narrative structure. Now, if you're not someone who plays video games or grew up playing them, LitRPG is essentially a genre that blends traditional storytelling with video game elements. So for example, in this book, the characters level up and they gain new abilities and experience points. So at the very beginning of the book, the main character, Carl, he starts off the quest with a level 6 intelligence. And his sidekick, the cat, Princess Donut, she kind of rolls in with a level 25 charisma. So throughout their quests, they're able to upgrade these and other skills, and it all adds to the plots, the conflict, the characterization, and all the humor in the novel. The characters, they also get to loot items, they get to track their health, they collect inventory, they're able to chat privately and send messages, and they navigate the dungeons through these mini-maps. They even receive notifications and messages from the game's AI, so messages pop up like "you have been poisoned." There's even text graphics that appear before a boss battle. So for example, a big versus sign just kind of appears as an intro to each enemy. So it's kind of like Street Fighter meets Scott Pilgrim versus the World. Now, some of these bosses, they even have these annoying little mobs. So think of your standard video game enemy like Koopas and Goombas. Now, I know for some people, these video game elements and mechanics can feel kind of a bit repetitive or might scare them away from the genre, but honestly, I think it all adds to the fun and entertainment to the experience. Now, this book came out in 2020, but I feel like the series has really taken off these last few years. I first heard about this book through Book Talk, BookTube. Content creators have been reviewing it and really hyping it up, so I finally decided to read it. But if you aren't familiar with this plot, essentially it's about a guy, Carl, and his ex-girlfriend's cat, Princess Donut, who are stuck on this intergalactic alien game show. So there's this apocalyptic event that destroys Earth. All the buildings on Earth sort of collapse, billions of people die instantly, and those who survive, they have the option to either enter the dungeon and fight to survive or die. So upon entering, they immediately become contestants to this blood sport game show. The characters kind of describe it as Running Man meets Survivor. The whole thing is televised across the entire galaxy. Now, this aspect sort of reminds me of like the Hunger Games. The aliens who are hosting the show, they're kind of like the game makers. They manipulate the rules of the game. They host recap shows with highlights of all the brutal moments, all the killings. So it's basically kind of like a sports center for this brutal killing show. Now, since it's televised, the characters have to put on a show for the TV and the audience so they can gain followers and views. And the more followers and views they get, it kind of benefits them. So it's sort of like Twitch in a way. They have to use their popularity to their advantage, and it helps them stay on the show even longer. Now, teenage audiences, they go crazy over the show, watching all the deaths. They're kind of over there chanting blurp, blurp, blurp. It's all pretty bizarre. Now, what I think makes this book special and so loved by so many people are the characters. Carl is this 27-year-old Coast Guard vet. He's barefoot, he's in his underwear, he's out there bombing goblins. Then there's Princess Donut. She's this magical, spoiled, bougie house cat who turns into this missile-firing machine. She has this level 25 charisma, so she's just always dropping these incredible lines of dialogue. Together, Carl and Donut have that classic odd couple energy. Their journey sort of reminds me of Joel and Ellie from Last of Us. He's sort of this grounded, frustrated character. She's this sarcastic, loyal companion. They're like the perfect mix of like sass and survival. Now, I know their characters sound a bit silly, but there is some depth to them. Carl has multiple flashbacks in the novel to his childhood, specifically memories with his dad. Now, I'm only on book number 1, but I feel like that might be an important character arc that is referenced throughout the entire series. Now, besides Carl and Donut, there are some other lovable characters. There's this NPC, non-playable character guide called Mordecai. He's sort of like the master splinter to Carl and Donut. There's other bizarre characters like gerbils, goblins, dingoes. Then there's this group of elderly contestants They're over there traveling the dungeon with like walkers and wheelchairs. It's kind of adorable. And by the second half of the book, you really start to care about the characters and the risks that they must take in order to survive and all the decisions they have to make to survive in this dungeon. So there's like this surprising emotional layer to it. So a quote that kind of stood out to me about this aspect of the book is, if we get to the point where we don't help each other anymore, then that's when we stop being human. Now, with so much of the book being about the absurd, the language is really casual, it's raw. To me, it kind of felt like a conversation with close friends. There's snappy pop culture references to things from Batman to Harry Potter. The dialogue is fast-paced, it's R-rated. There are some AI foot fetish things going on. Goblins who do meth. There's people peeing all over the dungeon. There's even some gory kill scenes involving child goblins. Think Quentin Tarantino meets Dungeons and Dragons. There's really raunchy things here. The action is really graphic. I've heard some people say it really leans into juvenile teenage boy humor. Personally, I found a lot of it pretty hilarious. It doesn't take itself too seriously, and I think that's what makes it fun. It's just entertaining chaos. It's not this piece of literary fiction, but it's super entertaining, and I think as unique as a read as it gets. I think Matt Dinniman deserves a lot of credit for his imagination, his ability to craft a story. The satire is super sharp. Now, overall, I really enjoyed this book. It's a great introduction to the lit RPG genre. I never felt overwhelmed by all the stats or the jargon. Now, this first book is more of a setup, so there isn't really like this big payoff at the end. It's kind of cliffhanger after cliffhanger, but I think that's totally understandable. This is book one of what I think is 7 or 8 books currently in the series, and I just hear they get better and better as they go on. So I'm really curious to see how book 2 goes. I'm excited to see how the characters develop, what characters are introduced, what are the new floors, what do they look like. This book does a great job of world building, so I'm also curious to see how Dinniman explores those political aspects of the book and the aliens behind the scenes of the show. I didn't listen to the audiobook, but I've heard that's the way to go. I might continue the series through Audible. The books are a little bit on the pricey end. I think I found them for like 25, 30 bucks each at Barnes & Noble's. And my library currently doesn't have the series, so I have to figure out how I'm going to get through book 2. All right, that's it for me. Thank you all for watching this review. Please like and subscribe. It really helps out the channel. Let me know your thoughts on this book. The series, should I continue reading it? Does Carl ever get pants? Did you get a cat and name it Princess Donut? And if you have any other lit RPG books that you think I should check out, please let me know. I might need a side quest in this genre. I'll see you all next time. Thank you again for listening.